sensing this danger. This is the greatest showman! He is floating on air now! He's going to send it back. Dawn, bang! Down he goes! They love it!
Hello and welcome back to another season of the NEMBC AFL Multicultural Footy Show. It's great to have your company. My name is Gabriel D'Angelo and with me on the panel is our award-winning presenter, Habir Singh Kang, and our new face, our expert, George Grossios. Good evening, gentlemen. Unfortunately, our regular host, Vanessa Gatica, is away ill. We wish her all the very best and a very speedy recovery. Habir, congratulations are in order. You were the winner of the 2019 Antenna Award for the Culturally and Linguistic Diverse Personality of the Year. Big congratulations to you, Habir.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think I just got lucky, but yeah.
I think so. And a big congratulations to everybody that works on this program, because we were also nominated for the Called Program of the Year. And it's great to be nominated. Unfortunately, we didn't win, but it was great to be nominated. We want to say thank you to everybody that works behind the scenes and in front of the cameras, and for you for watching. Thank you very much for your support. But moving on, it's been an incredibly strange and unprecedented start to the season, as many leagues around the world have been cancelled or suspended due to the coronavirus, and the AFL have taken the steps to continue the season and start round one tonight on Thursday with Richmond versus Carlton. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts?
Well, we're hoping the round actually kicks off, Gabriel. There's been a lot of uncertainty due to the COVID-19 coronavirus. As you just touched on, there have been leagues right across the world that have been cancelled, the NBA, the A-League, the Premier League. So hopefully our competition gets underway. The competition, as we know, has been reduced to 17 rounds. But tonight we have the traditional enemies, Richmond versus Carlton. And I'm tipping Richmond to go back-to-back this season and actually notch up a really good win, even though there's not going to be a single person to enjoy their victory at the ground.
Yeah. As you mentioned, it was a strange start. It was a very. We just picked up the bushfires. We had to deal with the bushfires at the start, and then all these Grand Prix and all other events would have given us that boost in the community. And it's really sad that now we're stuck with the coronavirus. And as you mentioned, it's a very strange start, and hopefully it gets better from now on.
Yeah, well, absolutely. The health and safety of our sporting community is paramount, but hopefully the matches will go as per schedule.
Yeah, well, we'll wait with bated breath because, as you said, people's health must come first, so we'll see what will happen and what steps the AFL will take. But if they do decide to play in round one on Thursday night, it's the old enemy, Carlton versus Richmond. This is going to be an exciting game because Carlton will be missing Eddie Betts and Richmond, of course, they'll be missing Alex Rance. Will Richmond have another easy win against the old enemy Carlton, or will Carlton be in the underdogs because there's no one going to be on the ground, so will Carlton have their win against Richmond?
Well, I believe Carlton need to put up a great show to beat Richmond at this stage, because Richmond is not just winning because of the players. It's the system they're following at the moment. So if there's no player is not there in the team on one day, whoever replaces him, it just fits into that system. So if they keep on doing that, there's no way Carlton gonna come near. But we are very excited to watch what Sam Walsh does in the second year, because he was phenomenal last year with Cripps coming in, and if Sam has a good year as well, there's a good chance that Carlton might put up a good show.
Well, Richmond, they've had a clearance sale after winning the premiership last season, but they still have a lot of depth. Of course, they're missing Alex Rance, as you touched on, Gabriel, but there are champions all over the ground, and I would expect them to have a comfortable victory, gentlemen.
Well, interesting thoughts, but I think this is a really good chance for Carlton to have a good start to the season, because everybody's expecting Carlton to improve from last season's performance, and now that they've got Teague in the coach's box, anything could happen. But I think Richmond are just too strong. You touched up on it, Habir. Richmond, they've got so many good players, and if one player's missing, they've got another one waiting in the wings to replace them. So I think Richmond might win that one against Carlton.
Yeah, although it would have been great, because Richmond, Tiger Army would have been that much in numbers, and then Carlton, they had a biggest membership, so it would have been a great game, but unfortunately we can't have fans.
Yeah, and I'm expecting Tom Lynch to kick a bag. He's had a full pre-season behind him, unlike his first season where he carried the knee injury.
Let's move on, as we have plenty more to talk about. Friday night at Marvel Stadium, it's the Western Bulldogs versus Collingwood. Both teams have had a very solid pre-season and are looking very sharp. Habir, how are your beloved doggies going to start the season?
Well, I believe they've got all the elements to be a very good team and good team this year. In fact, I will say that they have the potential to be in the top 4. But they've got a lot of hype at this stage. So it's going to be a real test for Luke Beveridge boys if they can live up to that hype. And last year we saw them at the end. They really performed well. All the superheroes, Jack McRae, Bontempelli, everyone was doing their job. So if they can live up to that hype, and there's no reason why wouldn't they perform well. On the other side, as you mentioned, Collingwood had a great preseason, and they always look good, that team, whenever they play. So it all forward, back, or there's hardly any flaws in that team. So it's going to be a cracker of a game for me. And I'll just go tip doggies for that one.
Of course.
No bias, of course.
No bias.
No bias.
Of course not.
Look, you'd be very excited about the development of Aaron Norton.
Yes.
And I expect him to take the next step this year. From Collingwood's perspective, they'd be disappointed not to go into the match with Adam Treloar. He did a hamstring a couple of weeks ago. Although on a positive note, they do have Jaden Stevenson available. And Taylor Adams has been declared fit as well. But there's some doubt over Pendlebury.
Yeah, absolutely right. I agree with you. I think that the Bulldogs, yes, they're going to have an excited list, and they're going to want to come out of this strongly. But I think Collingwood have just got too many good players in their arsenal. I think Collingwood, they're just slightly better than the Bulldogs at the moment, and I think that they're going to have a really good season, if the season goes on, of course. But that brings us on to Saturday, and there are 4 games on during Saturday with 0 spectators. First up, Essendon takes on Fremantle at Marvel, Adelaide plays the Swans at Adelaide Oval, GWS play host to the Cats, and Gold Coast meet Port Adelaide at Metricon. Which games tickle your fancy?
Well, can I focus on the GWS Geelong match?
Yes.
GWS, disappointing grand final performance last year, absolutely annihilated by the mighty Tigers, looking of course to redeem themselves. Pretty much a full list going into this particular clash, and Geelong, they've been weakened of course by the loss of Tim Kelly. Huge loss for the Cats. They do have somewhat of an ageing list, so I expect the younger GWS team to take out this opening clash.
Yeah, well, to me, Essendon versus Fremantle, that's going to be a cracker of a game for me because both the teams are sort of preparing well, and they both had a good pre-season as well. So with Essendon, especially with John Washford's coaching tenure on the line, I believe we've seen that in the past, in the last few years. Whenever the coach is under pressure, they generally have come good. Hardwick, or whether it's Collingwood coach, anyone.
Bomber Thompson in the past.
So I expect them to do better this year. But Fremantle is coming strong as well, especially although that was just a practice match against the West Coast Eagles, but defeating a West Coast Eagle team, which is like, it seems like invincible this year. I believe they're going to be running high as well. So, but for this one in the Marvel, I believe I'll go for Essendon.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, the disappointing thing for Essendon is no Joe Danaher again. He's had that groin injury that they can't get that injury correct, they can't get that right. A lot of responsibility will fall on Jake Stringer. And from the point of view of the Dockers, Justin Longmuir is a breath of fresh air, they're hoping, and hopefully he can introduce new tactics and systems where they become a lot more scoring and attacking, because under the Ross Lyon regime, they were renowned for being a very, very tight defensive unit, a low-scoring unit.
Some might say overly defensive, but we'll see what happens. But thank you for your insights, boys. Okay, viewers, we have to have a break. We'll be back after the commercial break with plenty more of the NEMBC AFL Multicultural Footy Show. Welcome back, and before we continue talking about this week's round of matches, George, I just want to ask you 2 questions. Who is going to be in the top 8 this season and why?
I'm tipping the Tigers, GWS, Brisbane, Collingwood, Western Bulldogs, West Coast Eagles, Geelong and St Kilda. And I think Richmond will win the competition because they have a fantastic team, lots of players who are champions of the game, great coaching, and I believe they're not going to be as cursed as they were last year with injuries.
Yeah, well, to to me, it's going to be pretty much what we had top 8 last year. I wouldn't be too surprised if that doesn't change. But the two vulnerable positions for me are Geelong and Essendon. And I believe Alan Richardson, he's up to something. And the way he's come up with the practice in the practice matches, the technique he's using, there's been a talk around it that he wants to change it all again. So I think that's going to be a surprise for a few teams, what he does. And also, I'm looking forward to Melbourne this year. I've got a feeling that this might be their year with Alan Richardson going there and Simon Goodwin under pressure, and Petrarca coming good as well. He's really was a standout in these pre-season games. Although, as you mentioned, St Kilda, I'm really a huge fan the way they played of course. Yeah, the way they played in the practice games, and the way Ben Redder, we've been talking last year as well, that he was probably the one that St Kilda needed at that time as a coach. And the way Rowan Marshall has performed at the front as well, and the way Paddy Ryder and Bradley Hill, they're coming into that team. I believe that team has got some exciting prospects. I wouldn't be surprised if they do make it to top 8, but for me, I'll just leave them out at this stage.
Yeah, well, I do hope that St Kilda make the top 8. Well, just for my sake, just selfish reasons. But I don't think GWS will make the top 8 this season. I actually think that a lot of clubs, when they lose really badly in a grand final, they start to disintegrate really, really badly the following season. We saw what happened to Port Adelaide when they got thumped in the grand final against Geelong, when they won for the first time in many, many years. So I think that affects the team really, really badly. Same thing happened to Melbourne back in 1988. I think a top 4 is going to be all Victorian top 4. I think Hawthorn, Richmond, Collingwood and Geelong are going to be in the top 4 in no particular order. But I just have a feeling that those 4 teams, especially Hawthorn, are just going to have this immense and massive resurgence this season. But time will tell. Who knows?
As a Hawthorn supporter, Gabriel, I wish I could share your enthusiasm for the Hawks, but I can't see them making the top 8.
As a St Kilda supporter, I wish I could share your premierships that a Hawthorn had, so you can't complain.
Well, look, GWS will have some key players return. Stephen Caniglio missed the back half of last season. He's a huge inclusion for the GWS.
Well, we'll see what happens, but I still have my doubts about them, but who knows, time will tell. But on to our next game, St Kilda take on North Melbourne at Marvel Stadium. Both teams have had a very busy pre-season. Who's going to win this one? This is going to be a tough one.
I'm tipping the Saints. Their recruits will be the difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, same. I'm excited to see Saints this year.
Well, I'm excited too, and they are the difference, so hopefully St Kilda can start off the season well. Well, we have to leave it there for now, and moving on to Sunday's game at Marvel Stadium. It's North Melbourne versus St Kilda. Who's going to win this one, George?
I'm tipping the Saints, Gabriel. The addition of players like Bradley Hill and Zach James will be a huge plus for the Saints. They add class and experience and hardness, so I'm predicting the Saints to have a comfortable victory first up.
Yeah, well, I'll just echo the same sentiments, and I'm really looking forward to Ben Redden and his boys performing well this year, although I just want Magic Dar to have a good time too.
Yeah, well, I echo those sentiments. Hopefully St Kilda can start off with a good win. We'll just have to leave it there for now. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with much more on the Multicultural AFL Footy Show. Welcome back, and we continue our preview of round 1, where the last 2 games are absolute crackers. Hawthorn take on Brisbane Lions at the MCG, and in Perth, West Coast faces Melbourne. Habir, what are your thoughts on these 2 amazing games?
Well, I believe it's going to be amazing games with both of them, and I believe Clarkson is up to something, and he's going to put up a show, as I mentioned before. So, but Brisbane Lions, they've been a surprise package last year, and it's going to be a bit of the same. Like if they can live up to their expectations. Chris Fagan, I like the way he's coaching and the way he's gone through the preseason. That everyone needs to deserve the place. Only then the person's going to be in that place. So I believe he's going to go hard on them as well. And Brisbane Lions, they're exciting to watch. And let's see if Alistair Clarkson can stop them or not. With this one, I believe just a bit of an edge for Hawks because it's an MCG.
Well, I wish I could share your confidence again, Habib, with the Hawks. They go into the match without Blake Hardwick, who's been a key defender for the Hawks. He adds toughness and aggression. Sadly, he's out of the team due to a chest injury. But on the positive side for the Hawks, they do have Jonathan Patton that played previously with the GWS, of course, had some knee injuries. Whether his body holds up, that's going to be a really crucial I think for the Hawks, they're lacking in goal power, so they really do need Patton to stand up, if you pardon the pun.
Yeah.
Tom Mitchell's back, that's another positive for the Hawks. But Habir, I honestly believe Brisbane will have too much pace and enthusiasm and too much skill for the Hawks, who are very much in a transitional phase.
Interesting you said that. Do you think that Brisbane Lions, that there's going to be a little bit of pressure on them to perform? Because last season they just came out of nowhere, had such an amazing season. And we saw what happened with Melbourne the season before, how they were very similar to the Brisbane Lions. They were just so bad for so long and then just came out of nowhere and had an amazing season. And then last year, we saw what happened to Melbourne. Do you think that in the back of their mind they're thinking, let's not have a repeat of what happened to Melbourne?
Yeah, look, that is a factor, but I believe it's the way Lachie Neale, he's playing. Charlie Cameron, we see him in pre-season as well, and all the pace they've got, they're just so good at the moment. I don't really see them flounder like that, because I'm pretty sure they would have that in mind. And Chris Fagan, as I mentioned to you, he's a coach which is like sort of living by the team, and they're buying what he's saying. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure they're not bad performers at MCG. Although I've tipped Hawks just because I'm into that there's some surprise.
The home ground advantage here.
Yeah. So although there won't be anyone over there, so that's going to be a bit different though. But I still reckon that they're not going to flounder. I believe Brisbane Lions still going to have a good season.
Well, we'll see. I think that Hawthorn, that they could win this game. I don't share your pessimism about Hawthorn, even though you are a Hawthorn supporter, George. I think Hawthorn are going to have a decent season. Well, I hope that Brisbane also have a good season. We'll see what happens. Hopefully they don't slip up like Melbourne did. And speaking of Melbourne, they're away in Perth against the West Coast Eagles. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts?
I would expect West Coast Eagles to have a very, very comfortable victory first up. If we speak about home ground advantage, they're virtually unbeatable at home. It's a fortress for them, the Optus Oval there in Perth. Melbourne are coming off a very, very disappointing 2019. I know they have a point to prove, but I think West Coast Eagles, with that finals experience and all of that talent that they have, their forward line is probably second to Richmond in terms of firepower and skill. Their midfield isn't anything to sneeze at either. Again, it's a very, very formidable midfield. And they're very, very strong defensively as well. So Melbourne will have their work cut out. They haven't travelled too well over the last 12 months, and perhaps that's a legacy of their 2018 season, where they thought that maybe 2019 was going to be a cakewalk as such.
But I believe there's going to be one huge factor, that the fans not going to be there, and that fortress which West Coast is used to with their fans behind their back, that's not going to be there. So I think Melbourne can take advantage of that and then come up with some better performance. Whatever they do, I believe that this is going to be a close game. Because I'm not sure how everyone is sort of set up. Tim Kelly going in there, whether he's able to maneuver that ball with Andrew Gaff and all the other players that they had. Like on paper, Nick Nat at the start, and then you got like Andrew Gaff and Tim Kelly, and then you got the forwards. But you see, Josh Kennedy hasn't been having a good season as well. So really the other players need to step up. Where the goal's going to come from, that's going to be a bit of a concern for West Coast. But having said that, I will still go for West Coast because we don't know how Melbourne's going to perform. Well,
the inclusion of Tim Kelly, that's just icing on the cake for the West Coast Eagles. And as you said, Habir teaming up with Andrew Gaff, and you have Nick Naitanui dominating the ruck contests. They'll be getting their fair share of the ball, the West Coast Eagles midfield, and they'll be able to feed that to their forward line, and defensive structures for the opposition will very well be under pressure.
And then we got Max Gawn as a captain and the good ruckman as well, so it's going to be a good contest.
Yeah, and you did mention that the game, like all the games, there'll be no spectators, and that could actually play in Melbourne's advantage. But do you think that their performance in the preliminary final in 2018, when they got absolutely smashed by West Coast, do you think that that's playing in the back of most of these players' minds? Because after all, most of them did play in that game, regardless if there's a crowd or not.
Well, I believe the 2019 season, they took it for granted. They thought that it was just going to be a continuation of the 2018 season. Players like Christian Petracca just didn't fire a shot last season. They were disappointing right across the board from their coaching, their playing stocks. So do they have any nightmares or any phobias about going back to Perth? That's all in the past. They'll be looking to this season as a fresh start. They know they have the talent. It's just a matter of the application now.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. That's all we have time for this week. Please be safe. Please take care of yourselves out there because of the coronavirus. So hopefully we'll be back next week. If the AFL are playing next week, we'll hope to see you then. If not, because of the coronavirus, we might be absent for a couple of weeks. But hopefully we'll be able to see you again next week. Don't forget to watch us on Aurora TV Foxtel at 12 midday Saturday mornings. Also listen to the NEMBC radio podcast on select national multicultural radio stations, 3ZZZ AFL Live Diversity Call on the AFL app, and online at the NEMBC's AFL Footy website, along with our weekly journal and tip selections. My name is Gabriel D'Angelo.
I'm Harbir Singh.
And I'm George Gracios.
Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.